17-year-old Mia Rodriguez had been dreaming of this moment her entire senior year. The Pennsylvania State Track Championships at Franklin Field, her shot at a full ride to Penn State. College scouts filled the bleachers, their stopwatches ready. Coach Martinez had been drilling into her for months. "This is your moment, Rodriguez. Don't blow it." But as Mia rounded the final turn in the 800-meter, something went terribly wrong. Her right leg buckled beneath her, and the sickening crack that followed echoed across the entire stadium. The pain hit like lightning, white-hot and blinding. She collapsed onto the red rubber track, screaming, not just from the agony shooting through her shattered femur, but from watching her future disappear in an instant. The ambulance ride to Jefferson Hospital was a blur of sirens and tears. Mia kept asking for her parents through gritted teeth, imagining them racing through traffic to get to her. She pictured her mom, Carmen, bursting through the emergency room doors in her work scrubs, and her dad, Miguel, probably still in his mechanic's coveralls but not caring about anything except getting to his little girl. Instead, it was a kind nurse named Sarah who held Mia's hand as the orthopedic surgeon explained the severity of the fracture. They'd need to insert a titanium rod, she'd be on crutches for months, and her track career was over. As the anesthesia kicked in, Mia still believed her parents would be there when she woke up. They weren't. What Mia found instead would change everything she believed about family, love, and what it truly means to be strong. Mia woke up alone in a sterile hospital room, her leg wrapped in white bandages and elevated in a sling. The first thing she saw wasn't her mother's worried face or her father's reassuring smile, it was a voicemail notification on her phone. "Hey Mija," her mother's voice chirped through the speaker, as casual as if she were discussing dinner plans. "We won't make it to the hospital. Isabella's college orientation at Georgetown got moved up, and you know how nervous she gets. This is such a big deal for her future. I'm sure you'll be fine, you've always been our tough one. Love you." That was it. No flowers. No frantic phone calls. No desperate drive across town. While Mia lay there with a metal rod in her leg and a future in ruins, her parents were 3 hours away in Washington, D.C., helping their perfect daughter pick out dorm decorations. Isabella Rodriguez had always been the golden child. Perfect grades, homecoming queen, early acceptance to Georgetown's pre-med program. She got a brand new Honda Civic for her 16th birthday just for making honor society. Mia didn't hate her older sister, she'd always looked up to Isabella's achievements, but she'd also always felt like she was performing for an audience that had already chosen their favorite. The accident confirmed what Mia had feared her whole life: she was the backup plan, the afterthought, the child who only mattered when the star wasn't available. Her phone buzzed with Instagram notifications. Her parents had posted a dozen photos from Isabella's orientation, so proud of our brilliant daughter. Next stop, medical school. The pictures showed Isabella beaming in front of Georgetown's iconic buildings, her parents flanking her with huge smiles. Meanwhile, Mia spent 4 days in the hospital, and the only visitor she had was Mrs. Chen, their elderly neighbor who brought homemade soup and helped her navigate the insurance paperwork her parents should have handled. But sometimes, when everything falls apart, that's exactly when you discover who you really are. 4 months on crutches taught Mia more about herself than 18 years of trying to please everyone else. Mrs. Chen became her unofficial guardian, driving her to physical therapy appointments and helping her shower when her leg was too weak to support her weight. When insurance wouldn't cover in-home therapy, Mrs. Chen quietly paid for it herself. Mia called her parents once during those long months, hoping maybe the reality of her situation would finally sink in. Her father picked up while watching TV, the sound of a baseball game echoing in the background. "We'll visit once we get back from helping Isabella settle in," he said absently. "You're doing okay, right?" The silence that followed his question made Mia question everything, her pain, her needs, even her right to feel abandoned. She hung up and never called again. Instead, she started journaling. Every ache, every small victory, every therapy session she attended alone. She wrote about learning to ask strangers for help, about the humiliation of needing assistance with basic tasks, about the weird strength that comes from realizing no one's coming to save you. But something else was happening too. As her leg slowly healed, something harder and more determined was growing inside her chest. The girl who had spent 17 years trying to earn love was dying, and someone fiercer was taking her place. When the acceptance letter from Temple University arrived, Mia stared at it for a long time. They had an excellent kinesiology program, ironic, considering her newfound obsession with understanding how bodies break and heal. She wanted to master the science of recovery, to rebuild not just herself but help others do the same. Her mother's response to the news was predictable. "That's nice, honey. Maybe you can transfer to Georgetown later to be closer to Isabella." They didn't know Mia had already turned down Georgetown's offer. She was done walking in anyone else's shadow. College would be different. This time, Mia was building something entirely her own. Temple University wasn't glamorous, but it was Mia's. While Isabella posted sorority photos and spring break trips funded by their parents, Mia worked nights at a Smoothie King near campus, attended physical therapy during the day, and studied until 2 a.m. with a heating pad wrapped around her still aching leg. Her dorm room smelled like instant ramen and old textbooks, and she shared it with 3 strangers who left dirty dishes in the sink. But every morning, Mia woke up knowing she'd earned every square inch of that cramped space. The pain she'd carried from the accident, the physical hurt and the deeper emotional wounds, slowly began to transform. It didn't disappear, but it changed shape. It became fuel. Mia threw herself into studying human movement and injury recovery. For her junior year research project, she wrote about recovery negligence in young athletes, using her own experience as an anonymous case study. When Professor Williams finished reading it, she had tears in her eyes. "This needs to be published," she said, nominating the paper for a National Undergraduate Research Award. 2 years later, Mia found herself presenting her research at a conference in Chicago. Standing at that podium, looking out at hundreds of medical professionals applauding her work, she felt something she'd never experienced before, pride that had nothing to do with anyone else's approval. Meanwhile, Isabella's perfect life was quietly falling apart. Her Instagram posts changed from cheerful sorority shots to cryptic captions like "finding out who's real" and "trust issues." Word through family gossip was that she dropped out of pre-med after failing organic chemistry twice and had a falling out with her roommates. But Mia was too busy building her own life to pay much attention. She made the dean's list 4 semesters in a row, landed a competitive internship at a major rehabilitation center, and was accepted into one of the top doctoral programs for physical therapy in Pennsylvania. Success, it turned out, was the sweetest revenge, especially when no one was watching you achieve it. By 24, Dr. Mia Rodriguez had done something extraordinary. Her doctoral capstone project, a system for affordable injury recovery care in underserved communities, had caught the attention of investors and medical professionals across the country. The idea had been born from her own experience: what happens when you get hurt and have nowhere to turn? Along with 2 colleagues from her program, Mia launched Mobile Recover, a startup that brought physical therapy and rehabilitation services directly to rural communities using specially equipped vans. It was personal, practical, and revolutionary. The press coverage started small, a feature in a local Philadelphia magazine, then a spot on a morning radio show. But when Wellness Today ran a major feature story with the headline "From Abandon to Advocate, How One Young Woman Turned Pain into Purpose," everything changed overnight. Mia's phone exploded with interview requests. She was invited to speak at medical conferences, appeared on podcasts, and was even asked to give a TEDx talk. Through it all, her parents remained conspicuously silent, until the day that magazine article went viral. Suddenly, her mother's Facebook page featured a proud post: "So blessed to have such a strong daughter. We always knew she'd do amazing things. #proudmom #strongwomen." Mia stared at the post, feeling nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just the weird detachment you feel when strangers try to take credit for something they had no part in building. But then came the surprise that would test everything she'd learned about forgiveness and family. An email arrived in Mobile Recover's general inbox, a job application from someone with a familiar last name. Isabella Rodriguez was applying for an entry-level position, and she had no idea her estranged sister was the founder. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. And now Mia held all the cards. Isabella's cover letter was raw and honest in a way that caught Mia off guard. I'm passionate about supporting recovery in underrepresented communities, and I'm seeking a second chance to do something meaningful with my life. I've made mistakes, but I'm ready to start over and contribute to work that matters. Mia stared at the application for a long time. She could have deleted it, could have had HR send a standard rejection letter. Instead, she did something that surprised even herself. She called Isabella in for an interview. The woman who walked into Mobile Recover's conference room looked nothing like the confident sorority president from the Instagram photos. Isabella seemed smaller somehow, worn down by whatever failures had brought her to this moment. Her designer clothes had been replaced by a simple blazer from Target, and the cockiness Mia remembered was nowhere to be found. Isabella Rodriguez? Mia said, stepping into the room. Her sister's face went white as recognition dawned. Oh my God. You're the CEO? Founder, Mia corrected quietly. I built this after the accident. Remember the accident? Isabella opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. And in that moment, Mia realized something profound. She didn't need to humiliate her sister. Life had already done that job thoroughly. All Mia had to do was decide what kind of person she wanted to be with the power she'd earned. The decision came easier than expected. The position starts Monday, Mia said. You'll be taking intake calls and shadowing our therapists. It's entry level, but if you're serious about starting over, this is where you start. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. Why? She whispered. Because I believe in second chances, Mia replied. But mostly because I believe in who I've become. But working together would test both sisters in ways neither of them expected. Isabella started at the bottom, just like Mia had years ago. She took intake calls, cleaned equipment, and shadowed therapists with a humility that seemed genuine. To her credit, she didn't complain, not when patients dismissed her, not when she had to work weekends, not even when the staff celebrated Mia's birthday with cake and Isabella stood quietly in the corner, finally understanding what invisibility felt like. Months passed in professional politeness. They weren't friends, too much history for that, but they weren't enemies either. They were something rarer, two people who had seen each other at their worst and were trying to build something better. The breakthrough came during a mobile clinic run to a small town in rural Pennsylvania. As they packed up equipment in the van, Isabella sat quietly for a long time before finally speaking. I should have been there when you fell, she said, barely audible. I'm sorry. For all of it. Mia didn't respond with words. Instead, she handed Isabella something she'd been carrying in her wallet for 7 years, the X-ray of her shattered femur, with a note taped to it that read, sometimes the worst breaks lead to the strongest foundations. Isabella stared at it for a long time, then nodded. The final twist came when Mobile Recover received a federal grant to expand nationwide. Mia was asked to lead a televised panel discussion about healthcare innovation. As the news anchor introduced her live as the founder who turned being left behind into a legacy of healing, the camera panned across the audience and caught her parents in the crowd. They were clapping awkwardly, their pride visible but hollow, because they knew the truth. Their daughter hadn't just learned to walk again after her accident. She had walked past them entirely, and never looked back. But maybe, Mia thought as she watched Isabella working quietly with a young patient who reminded her of herself at 17, some kinds of family aren't about blood or history. Maybe the strongest foundations are built by people who choose to show up, day after day, to do the hard work of healing, themselves and others. As she stepped up to the microphone to address the national audience, Mia Rodriguez, doctor, entrepreneur, survivor, smiled. She had turned her breaking point into her breakthrough, and her pain into someone else's possibility for healing. And that, she realized, was worth more than all the family photos and proud Facebook posts in the world. Sometimes the worst breaks lead to the strongest foundations. Dr. Mia Rodriguez, founder of Mobile Recover.